Welcome back into One Winning Pod, where it turns out the Ravens actually aren't all that bad. They went into Foxborough against a non-Tom Brady-led team, took care of business. We found out the Dolphins are legit, which makes last week's loss feel, a little less bad. But overall, we got a bounce-back performance here by the Ravens. We were expecting they would be able to beat this team, and that portions of it might be difficult, and that's exactly what we got. A little more high scoring than we expected, but still, Ravens get out of it, and they're going to take a 2-1 record back home this coming Sunday against Buffalo.
Yeah, certainly a lot of good things. But I think with the story the first couple of weeks, I think there are definitely a lot of things that still need to be cleaned up. Nowhere near close to being a perfect team at this point. But yeah, I think we got to start with what went well. Guys, Lamar Jackson continues to just be amazing. I don't know what the price tag is going to be for whatever we do re-sign him. I don't really care. I've said it before, I don't really care. But, gosh, he still is performing at an extremely high level. Ended the game with 5 touchdowns. It's incredible. Now, yeah, it feels like a great decision that I did in the Ravens Flock League to take him and double dip with Andrews. I've been doing great. So, yeah.
Yeah, the same stack that Correspondent K-Fish did in another league, right? He did that.
I know, yeah. He and I are doing the same thing. Yeah.
It's a beautiful stack. It's funny because I have him in best ball leagues, which is like good and bad. It's like, obviously I would have started him anyways, so it's like not that interesting. But in a couple of leagues, I wish I picked him sooner. But yeah, man, Lamar Jackson. I haven't looked yet at the leading rushers in the NFL, but I'm pretty sure he's probably one of the leading running backs as well. Definitely top 12. Because he has 100-yard games, and all the running backs have been so inconsistent this year. He's a cheat code.
Yeah, there was a little bit of everything too. Just continues to look great in pretty much all phases. There were only a few throws I think that probably we don't want to have back. I think there was one down the sideline to Andrews. Maybe put a little bit too much oomph on it. The interception, I think that was just maybe a poor read, and I'm not seeing the corner kind of drop off the route from Duvernay. That I'm sure he'd like to kind of have back. But other than that, just on point with a lot of throws, short passes, deep passing. It was just all over the place. That throw to Duvernay in the end zone, fantastic pass from that one as well. And I really think, we're not an apologist pod, even though maybe we have a little bit more positive things to say than some other of the fan base. But another guy who probably deserves a lot of credit, Greg Roman. There was a lot of interesting play calls, I think. I think the vault was opened. That shovel pass to Andrews, that's straight out of Andy Reid's playbook. I was not expecting that at the goal line, but it was a great play call. Andrews almost lost it. It was a little bit low for him, yeah. But there were a lot of plays like that, I think, in this game that the guys just executed really well on, and it showed. It was creative, and it worked really well.
Yeah, Lamar's picking up right back where he left off before the Miami game last year. Kind of derailed him, combination of whatever that illness was that he suffered where he wasn't able to play against Chicago, and then just seemed kind of out of sorts until the injury. But he's back here. You're asking, is Lamar currently leading the league in rushing? Currently tied for 4th right now. Yep. Very likely will be tied for 5th after, when people are listening to this recording, considering Saquon is only 7 yards behind him and Monday Night Football hasn't kicked off. But yeah, not only just on the ground, through the air. Current leader in throwing touchdowns in the NFL, Lamar Jackson, stands alone there, just 2 interceptions, 64% completion percentage. He's really good, and I can understand fans' frustration last year, but the idea that the Ravens should have let this guy go for Huntley, even if he breaks the bank, which he's going to, yeah, no. Lamar is one of the best players in the league right now, and he's able to cover up some weaknesses on this team as some players get back in the groove of things. And we'll see. We'll see what happens this week against Buffalo, but that's going to be an incredible quarterback matchup. The best quarterbacks in the league right now, I don't think it's a homer take to say it right now. It's in whatever order: Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Those are by far the 3 best quarterbacks right now in the league. We're going to have a great quarterback matchup, and like Chris was saying, the offense, we're seeing some new wrinkles through the first 3 weeks, and hopefully the Ravens will continue to do that against Buffalo. We have seen in the past, sometimes early in the season, the Ravens will bring out these new offensive wrinkles and then kind of draw it back a little bit and be a little more conservative, a little more of the what has worked in the past in these big games, I guess, to avoid any critical mistakes. But if this offense continues to be aggressive as it has through basically since the second half of Week 1 against the Jets, it's going to be a really exciting matchup against Buffalo. But we still got to talk about this game first before we get to that. So I think Chris brought up a good segue too. Receivers this week, again, were great. Mark Andrews is his old, reliable self. But let's talk about Devin Duvernay, because now this is 3 weeks in a row of Devin Duvernay making impact plays on special teams and receiving. 3 touchdowns through the first 3 games, and even though he didn't have a touchdown against Miami, had 2 good catches. One of them was a clutch catch over the middle. Unfortunately, he got concussed on that play. But are we starting to see Devin Duvernay take on the unquestioned number 3 receiving role in this offense?
Mink was right. Remember when we had Mink on? And
I do. Yes, I do.
They're like,
Yeah,
what about
that.
Tyler Wallace? What about Prochet? And he's like, I think it's Duvernay. We were like, all right, like, I guess so. And it kind of felt like we were all just making our own things. The guy in the castle, we should have trusted him. He knew. He had seen it. Yeah, Duvernay is the number 2 wide receiver, of the actual wide receivers, not including Mark Andrews. And it's not even close right now. Robinson comes in, we're like, ooh, maybe he's the number 2. No, it was always Duvernay. It was always Duvernay. He was hurt. Like, we didn't see him in the preseason. And maybe we wouldn't have. At the level he's been playing right now, he might have been included in the group that just never got to play. And obviously a Pro Bowler in the receiving department. Every time he catches the ball there, it's dynamic, and you think he could break it to the house. And yeah, I'm just a little salty that I went contrarian on my best ball lineups. Like, I always picked a wide receiver for the Ravens near the end because I figured like there had to be someone who would emerge. But I only got Duvernay a couple times. I got a lot more Prochet. And Homeboy's growing is not recovered.
No, unfortunately not. But we think hopefully he'll be there available in a couple of weeks or something whenever it is. But yeah, man, Duvernay's playing great. Also, continuing to make plays in the special teams on the return game. He had a nice, was a 47-yard return earlier in the game. I mean, if he just was able to veer back in bounds, that was a touchdown. A great game-changing play. But yeah, kind of continuing with the offense. I think we should talk a little bit about the other guy who came back and didn't have a great day in terms of stat line, but it was really great to kind of see him back. J.K. Dobbins, to me, he's a little bit of rust. I think there in some places, maybe did he hit the right holes in some places? No, there were a few issues in pass protection, but he's just kind of getting back. Like, that's kind of to be expected. But physically, I think Dobbins is almost there. I mean, he still has some power, still has a good bit of speed. There was one play, I think it was only like a 2 or 3 yard run, but he had to avoid a Patriot defender in the backfield, did a nice spin move, and had to keep his balance. That was one of the things that we were really excited for when he was a rookie. He just had tremendous balance and being able to stay upright and keep churning for yards. That was there, and that was a play that really made me excited for his return. And the good news, fortunately, is that overall, I think, the run game did pretty good. Like, it was a bounce back game, I think, not just because of Dobbins' appearance, but blocking very, very good this game. Justice Hill had a few big runs as well. We're starting to see more from him. So, all around, a lot of positives, I think, to take away there.
Patrick Ricard. We have to talk about Patrick Ricard if we're talking about the run game. We talked about it last week. He didn't have the best game. There was questions of, if he had an injury that he was playing through because he didn't practice was limited participant in practice during the week leading up to the Miami game. But he came out and he was just absolutely had a great game from a run blocking perspective. Also got to have a catch. Matt Judon definitely, he had a great reunion with Judon that game. There were plenty of times he was in on Judon, completely pancaked him. At one point I had to put in our Discord chat, body by pancakes greater than body by Taco Bell, because Patrick Ricard just laid him out on one of the blocks. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but
it was the one that sprung the big yardage from Hill.
The third. I'm literally. I have the replay on in the background.
There you go.
It literally just played third quarter, about 10:15. Yeah, that he'd cross the formation and then basically like do a 180 to be able to move him in the other direction and just completely pancaked him. Amazing block.
Yeah, and that's really going to be important down the stretch for us to get Patrick Ricard in his prime. I understand, his position on the team. There's some controversy among the fan base as to whether or not the Ravens should be using him a lot, but unfortunately, as we saw, Nick Boyle was active this game, and he did not see the field very much. Josh Oliver got way more snaps than he did. Josh Oliver got more snaps than Isaiah Likely did. Obviously, he had the touchdown catch, which was excellent placement by Lamar and decent adjustment by Oliver to catch that ball in the zone. But, I think we did see a little bit of improvement from Oliver from a run blocking perspective in this game. I'll admit I wasn't watching it super closely, but there were a couple times where I saw, he had some decent blocks, but you feel much more comfortable with Ricard being a bigger part of the run blocking game if Boyle is not able to go. And we did see Ricard, line up at tight end at some times, gave some assistance to Fowler in pass protection, which we'll talk about later since the left tackle situation continues to be a fun discussion. But yeah, excellent game by Ricard, and hopefully that's something that can continue, his health can stay, as we're still waiting to see how much, if any, Boyle is able to contribute this year.
Yeah, it is wild that Boyle was in for 4 snaps and Oliver was in for 24. The only optimistic take for this for Boyle is that maybe they view Oliver as a trade candidate. I don't know. They're trying to showcase him. But yeah, this is it's not positive. And, I can't remember if Boyle was involved in special team snaps in the past, but he was involved with 9 of them. Same as Oliver. So maybe that's another piece of the puzzle. It's he's really kind of fallen down the depth chart. Another guy who barely got any snaps when we talk about the run game is Mike Davis. He only got 1 snap. Drake, who was the starting announced back 1 week ago, was inactive for no other reason than just performance or fit. And I tell you, man, the running game is, I would say, back. And I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that. Hill was running well. Dobbins was running well. And the big thing I will say about both of them is that it's pretty clear to me that they've been around a while, because the mesh point looks so much better with them. And it actually became a real trick, when we've watched the Ravens a lot, obviously. And half the time in the mesh point, I don't know who's going to get the ball. That's the point. Whereas I think at the beginning of the year, it was more of a standard handoff than any other. It wasn't a true Ravens mesh point where it looked like it go either way at any point. These two backs got it. They can run the mesh point. It gives you so much more versatility, and it's awesome. I'm thrilled, and I also was really happy to see that Dobbins was participating in the passing game, lining up out wide, and even getting thrown a couple balls. So I think he's another option that we'll see get catches in this offense.
For sure, yeah, and you really love to see that Dobbins looked like his old self. Sure, you just look at the box score, only averaged 3.3 yards per carry, but that really doesn't tell the whole story. Obviously, he's still going to have to get his legs back. He didn't get as many carries as you would like to see, but again, working him back in, that's expected. But physically, he looked like the Dobbins that we remembered from the end of the 2020 season. He looked explosive. He looked shifty. And yeah, I think you're bringing up a great point with bringing up how the mesh point really does unlock this Baltimore offense and get the run game back in swing. We were talking in the preview episode about how, if the Ravens can win the time of possession, that's going to be huge for them as far as controlling the clock, controlling the game flow, rather, I should say. And they did it, guys. They did. By 36 seconds, they won the time of possession this week. That's what the running game does for you. Being a little bit facetious there. But it truly is. That's what has made this run game so special in the past few seasons, as most people listening to this know, if not all of you. It's been stated quite a bit, and when you have backs there, like the first 2 games this season for the most part, and last year, who don't have as much experience running that with Lamar, the rushing attack just isn't going to be as effective. It's just not. So it's great to see that Dobbins looks healthy, Justice Hill looks healthy. Hopefully we can get Gus back too at some point this season. But yeah, this looks like a part of the offense that's on the ascendancy. They're getting pieces back. They're figuring out how to make this gel. It's really good to see this coming together.
Moving over, kind of want to talk about offensive line. So we mentioned before, so it looks like Patrick McCary had some sort of ankle injury. He was ruled out in early in the game, I think around the second quarter. So I don't know if we've heard any news on him as far as I know.
It's a sprain.
It's a sprain, so maybe a couple of weeks.
That was from Harbaugh, though, right?
Yeah, Harbaugh said after the game it was a sprain. And, I mean, I think the thing that you're really getting at, Chris, is like, that could mean anything, right? Like, legitimately could mean anywhere from, like, I think it's not going to be long enough to warrant an IR visit, but it will be long enough that he probably is out for at least another game or two. Like,
per Jeremy Fowler, it's a low ankle sprain. So not high ankle sprain like Lamar had last year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he said he'd be fine, which, I mean, to be honest with you, I've noticed the new Harbaughism is like, fine if it's not a season ender, not fine if it's a season ender. You'll be back in 18 weeks. Well, if you make the Super Bowl, you're fine. Get some deer antler spray or something.
I was just about to say. We got stockpiled, right?
I was going to say, in a couple of years, not fine is going to mean, well, he's probably never going to play again, but fine. Yeah, he'll come back sometime. But no, that actually wasn't a leading question. I legitimately did not know if there was a status on McCary, but appreciate bringing that up. That's good.
Yeah.
Our listeners will appreciate it. But yeah, no, talk about his replacement, Daniel Falele. By the end of the game, I thought he looked pretty decent. You know, he had a little bit of a rough first half. I think rookie 4th-round pick, being thrown in the fire, had a little bit of issues, especially in pass protection. I just had a lot of trouble being able to get back and into his sets. He had guys go around him. I think there were 2 sacks that were, mostly on him. I think the second one, maybe you can make an argument that Dobbins should have chipped the rusher on the outside. Maybe could have allowed Lamar just enough time to escape. But I think he was credited for 2 sacks. But yeah, by the end of the game, I mean, kind of what I mentioned earlier, just kind of credit to Greg Roman for really adapting and, providing some help. I mean, Ricard was involved in some blocks over there on the edge. I thought he did a good job. Sometimes Powers would also assist a little bit more on that side. But by the 3rd, 4th quarter, I thought Falele looked relatively comfortable, and it wasn't as dire of a situation as it was in the first half. But of course, Ronnie Stanley, where are you? It would be really nice to have you come back at some point soon, please. I feel like Falele looked good, but gosh, it would certainly be better to have a healthy Ronnie Stanley there.
Street clothes Stanley, as Garnett calls him, is we'll see. We'll see if this is the call to action necessary to get him out there. But I'm glad to see the left tackle of the future looking all right. Like Falele, in my opinion, I was saying that at the end of preseason, he's the left tackle of the future, like in my head until proven otherwise, until Stanley says that he's coming back. I thought that he showed enough. And like, my golly, by the 3rd game of the year, we're in the situation where he had to show it, and he looked competent. Like, again, like you said, it started off a little rough. He wasn't getting out of his set fast enough. The same things we've been talking about all preseason that kind of can ail him from time to time. But he has this way of bouncing back and improving at really rapid paces. He was doing his set on the sideline to just get more practice, like in the middle of the game. Because he doesn't play left tackle. He played right tackle. I mean, even I think all preseason, we didn't even see him like flirt with the left side.
Mm-hmm.
This is excellent news for the Ravens. And, if the worst case scenario happens and he ends up having to be a left tackle for us for an extended period of time, it looks like it might not be the worst. Like, it could be absolutely better than what it was last year, and maybe even above average play. So I'm excited for him. I think this is like, again, like going back to this draft class and some of the immediate returns that we're seeing. It's just another good sign for the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, just think of like the Raiders game last year with Alejandro Villanueva, and just like compare that tape to like what Falele showed this game. Like, I mean, Falele looked great in comparison. I mean, I know we're kind of like picking on him, like, yeah, he wasn't getting fast out of his sets, but he wasn't Alejandro Villanueva, right? Like he had some really atrocious pass protection that one year. So, yeah, totally with you, man. Like, mostly positive signs.
Yeah, and it was great that they didn't have to help him much. Like you said, after like that was one of the things that Harbaugh mentioned in his presser was that, you know, they were giving him some help at the beginning, and then he kind of got into his own, and they stopped doing that, and that really opens up the game. We saw that last year with Villanueva. We had to like help him so much that, you know, these chip blockers, like, they can't do that much. They're not as dynamic, and it limits your options in the passing game when you do stuff like that. And if you don't have to worry about them, like, boom, it's a big deal. So not having that liability and being able to pick up your assignments and deliver is going to be a huge deal for the Ravens.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree with everything you guys are saying. We've definitely seen worse rookie debuts for Ravens offensive linemen than what we saw from Falele, and exactly what you guys hit it right on the head. Like, what you love to see out of him is the improvement throughout the game as he got himself accustomed to the speed of the NFL against a pretty formidable defense. You know, they were bringing guys all game. That defense there's a lot of good players there. And say what we will about the offensive side of the ball for the Patriots, the fact that the Ravens put up 37 points on that defense is a good accomplishment, and that they were able to do it with a slightly beat up offensive line was pretty good too. To also talk about the offensive line, I wanted to talk a little bit about a guy we haven't talked too much yet about. He's a new guy on this offensive line. Morgan Moses is a guy I'm still trying to get a full read on. He had some huge blocks in the run game this game. It did give up a few pressures, but overall, like, I haven't, had a chance to go back and watch every snap of Morgan Moses. But from what I've seen so far, particularly in the run game, the early returns seem pretty good on this guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, as I was watching the replay again of this game, I was trying to focus a little bit more on Moses. Yeah, a run blocking. I mean, I thought there was was it that one? I don't remember if it was a Dobbins or a Hill run, but you had Zeitler and Moses. Actually, no, I guess it would have been Lamar.
It was Lamar. Zeitler, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
you had Zeitler and Lamar. You had Zeitler and Moses pulling left, and then Zeitler got the down block, and Moses was sort of running up. Moses just completely demolished number 21 on that play. I think Andrews was initially blocking him, but then he went off to block somebody else, and then Moses just came in and just led the way, completely pushed him out of the play, and Lamar, went behind him, got a first down, more yards, whatever. But that was exciting. I watched that and I was like, oh, okay, I see 78. And pass protection, I gotta say overall, he was one-on-one on Judon pretty much the whole game. And for the most part, the Ravens weren't going to let Judon beat them. The guy across from him, Wise Jr., had 3 sacks. Technically 2, I guess the third, I don't know why Lamar didn't pick up the extra yard, but he got 3. But that was all on the left-hand side. But as far as the right, I don't think Judon was really involved in much. So, credit to him with that. I really like some of his technique, and for Moses too. He seems to really anchor really well. You can kind of see him sit down waiting for somebody to come and be able to push back. And so overall, not flashy, but kind of like the guy next to him, Zeitler, of just quietly for most of the part doing his job pretty well. And then fortunately for this game, he kind of had that one highlight block where I was like, okay, yeah, I see you're there. But I'm glad you brought him up, man, because I was pretty excited for him just watching the replay of this game.
Yeah, his second level blocks were great. His pulling was awesome. He's been pretty quiet. He had 2 false starts in this game, which was a big no-no. After what honestly has been a remarkable first 2 games for the offensive line from a penalty perspective, just basically none. I don't know. I can't remember if they had none or just 1 or something, but it definitely has been really low. So hopefully he gets that cleaned up.
Well, I was one of them. I think the first one, I think the Patriots were running some sort of blitz. Linderbaum was taking a little bit to basically point out who was going to pick up who. And they were really like, everyone was kind of rushing to be able to get their sets. And then it was basically, if Moses didn't have a false start, it was going to be a delay of game. So I don't know if I necessarily put that one on him. But the second one, I think that was a mental error on his part. It was all him.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point, Chris, because like I do remember the play clock was coming down. So it looked like one way or the other, we were getting a penalty. Yeah. So, yeah. He was just trying to, like, if this stat does go out, I'm going to be perfectly best jump ever.
Which, I mean, again, like, we haven't talked about him, but I mean, a bad play in the moment for Linderbaum, but honestly, like, that's kind of something that you want to look for from a center, right? Being able to make the right calls. And, unfortunately, like, you wish he kind of got him a little bit in sooner, but I like the fact that he's able to, be able to point them out. One of those things, I guess, with more mental reps, to be able to make those calls a little bit faster. But it's certainly good to see from a rookie.
Yeah, I mean, this offensive line, I mean, all things considered, obviously we're having issues with the run game, but it looks like that's improving, and the pass blocking has been tremendous, which has been enabling the passing game to be so much more dynamic. And if I have to choose one, I'm picking the passing game. Right. and it's great that the running game's coming. Right. And I think it will be there eventually in full force. So, yeah, I mean, this is all really positive signs. The investment in the offensive line is showing. We are down to our like third or fourth string tackle, mattering how you want to look at it. And they had a great performance against a good defense. How about that?
Well, speaking of the defense, I guess we want to go and move to that side of the ball now. And it was definitely a better performance than what we saw in the collapse against Miami. Early on, it looked like it was quite clear that the Patriots had watched the film and they saw, okay, when the Ravens had to put out the rookie corners, we can attack those guys and have some success there. And early on, you saw Armour Davis was kind of put on an island a bit, could have had more help from my perspective, at least, against Devontae Parker. But the Ravens quickly made an adjustment there, put in Brandon Stevens, kind of nullified that through the end of the first half, and then had some issues there. But I mean, outside of those big plays to Parker, Devontae Parker, I think had like 150 yards receiving. Despite the final score, I think the Ravens defense more or less kept the Patriots offense basically where they wanted them for the majority of the game.
I think so. I think the obvious weak spot right now is the third corner.
Yes,
I think Marlon and Peters, I think they got it. I didn't really see too many plays that were made on their side of the field. The third corner right now is definitely more of a question mark. Jalen Armour-Davis, I wouldn't be surprised if his snap counts really start diminishing the next couple of weeks. Just from some of the mental mistakes he had were just like really bad. I think that first catch that he led up to, I guess it was to Parker Aguilar in the first half, just was like playing off his guy, then was slow to react to get there, then took a bad angle to be able to get the guy, and then like kept running more, and eventually made the tackle. But there were just a string of like really poor, rookie mistakes basically in there. And I'm sure they're trying to get him a little bit of that early, be able to learn from that. But honestly, like, I'm a little concerned if they want to put them in there for an extended period of time, because I mean, now we've had 2 weeks in a row of basically really big mental mistakes. Unfortunately, they didn't cost us the game this time, but they certainly could. Miami, it did. So I'm a little iffy on him as the third. But yeah, you were right. Stevens played a little bit better, although had some issues as well. Pepe honestly looks the most comfortable to me. But, I'm sure, rotating him with Stevens, I think would be ideal, but they definitely need some more seasoning.
Harbaugh was giving the excuse to Stevens that, coming back from that quad injury, that maybe he had a step lost and, might be able to, improve over time. And I don't disagree with that. I think that could be a part of it. Armour Davis, some bad angles, we saw him take. Definitely some growing pains there for the rookie. And Pepe, like you said, I think, I like Pepe the most because it allows Humphrey to stay on the outside, which feels like a plus, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. We'll see how this all plays out. I'm not hitting the crisis button on it at the moment because these are all young players who can improve. And also, like, I like the fact that we're trying different things and seeing what works with this defense. And I think over time they'll settle down. The biggest thing I'll say is quite frankly, I don't care at all if we give up 400 yards passing every game, if we're going to get like 3 to 4 interceptions, which is kind of what we've been doing. And that sounds good to Alec. Like, I think we need to look at defense a little differently than we used to as Ravens fans. We used to think of suffocating defense, no yards, just like brutal. The offense in the world of the NFL has changed such that I think like giving up yards and dynamic plays is okay, but having your own dynamic plays, mostly in the turnover department, either through forced fumbles or interceptions, is kind of the new way, or like a big 4th down stop that we saw out of Humphrey, or a, critical sack. It's more about these splashy, flashy plays, in my opinion, than just like raw stats. And that's where this defense has actually shined almost all year, minus 1 quarter. And that is what I care about, and I think is more sustainable and what we should be focusing on. So yeah, you can't judge this team by the box scores and by like just stats is my main takeaway. It's all about game flow and how they're able to rise to the key leverage situations.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point, and I know we've talked about this in the past before, whether or not on this show, I can't remember. In Ravens teams of old, sure, those defenses were dominant because of all the great players that they had. This current defense has a lot of great players as well, too. But again, like you said, it was a different time. And also, and we've talked about this before, the game plan that the Ravens offense would used to have with the run heavy, really make long drives, not many big splash plays terribly often, that kept your defense really well rested on the sideline, and therefore they're going to have a much easier time against offenses. Currently we saw that the Ravens rushing offense, starting to get a little bit of its stride against the Patriots, but when you're doing these quick drives where you're scoring on these long plays, it gives the defense less time to rest and increases the pace of play for both sides of the offense. So yeah, defense is going to give up more at those times, but I think you bring up an excellent point. We've stressed so much over the past few seasons, and the Ravens have come out publicly and said it as well. Turnovers need to be a key. They need to be a key for this defense, and through the first 3 weeks of the season, we're seeing a plethora of turnovers out of this defense. Heck, the Ravens Marcus Williams almost had another interception in the second half against Miami during that quarter that could have ended the game right there. Just some bad luck. He wasn't able to fully hold on to it. And, if he holds on to that, that's a whole different story. That could have stopped the Dolphins' comeback right there. So, yeah, this defense looks like it's going to be a lot more opportunistic than in years past. Certainly turnovers can be fluky, but there is skill in it as well. And yeah, I think that's something that it's going to take some adjustment to it. But one other thing I want to say, not to monologue too much, but we're talking about where the Armour Davis is going to fit into this defense. Where are they going to really shake out the secondary with the unfortunate injury to Kyle Fowler, which is a huge blow because that really firmed up slot corner for this year. After this Bills matchup, you have a lot of teams on this schedule where the secondary may not have to be as deep. Look, you got the Bengals, they got T. Higgins beat up. We'll see what happens there. And then the Giants, Browns, Tampa Bay's receivers are beat up. New Orleans, Carolina. That's a pretty long stretch there where, I'm not saying those games will necessarily be easy, but there's a lot of games there where you can afford to try some different personnel packages out there, and maybe give Armour Davis and Pepe Williams that seasoning that we're talking about before you get into the back end of the schedule and have to face some really deep offenses. So we'll see how the secondary, what they have to do against the Bills. But after that, the schedule might actually work out so that the Ravens get some flexibility to figure out how to approach some of these holes.
Yeah, the Ravens are currently tied for first in total turnovers by the defense with 8. Jacksonville Jaguars and who's the other guys? I saw another 8 on the board here. The Buccaneers also have 8. But we're independent for second place in turnover differential, +5. And that's awesome. I mean, that's winning football right there, to be ahead in turnover differential and just creating those turnovers, particularly in the situations we did them, right? The big one, obviously, being Marlon Humphrey's interception. The defense looks like it's just getting gashed and driven on easily, and reminders of what happened. The scars are getting picked on from last week. And boom, he gets a pick in the end zone, stops the drive, stops the bleeding, and the Ravens are able to put the game on ice. So that's the stop we were talking about. That was the player who was missing, right? So good to see that he only missed one snap the whole game and is playing at that level. I think it's important for him. And then, of course, another redemption arc, we have Ricard on the offensive side, and we have Hamilton on the defensive side getting the splash play I think he's been pressing for, and I'm hoping this will let him just ease in and play with more confidence. He showed why he was a first-round pick and so highly touted. The way that he was able to gain ground on Bourne and then get that punch was huge after letting up. Not he didn't let it up himself, but after the defense had let up a kind of big completion and a runaway there.
Yeah, excellent play by Hamilton, and then for Peters to be able to jump on that ball and secure it before going out of bounds. It was great. I was a little bit worried about that in the moment, just to make sure that we'd stop that drive there. But yeah, it was an excellent play from the rookie. Kind of pivoting a little bit, one guy who I think we're still waiting for that big play from him, and I know he wants it to come so badly. But Odafe Owe, I think, is having a little bit of trouble, and I know it's not all on him. I think the dearth of outside linebackers at all, I think, is really kind of hurting him. But just one of those guys is just getting some pressure, but just not close enough. There are a few plays he'd be able to climb the pocket and just is an arm's length away from the quarterback, and then Mac Jones was able to run out. I think that play where Mac ran in for the touchdown, Odafe, if he was 2 feet closer, that's a sack. That game's over, or that drive's over, rather. And there were a number of plays like that. And, I know one, common thing I think is that he's being held a lot. And, I don't disagree with that, but I do think he's having a little bit of trouble of just maybe pushing a little bit too much. I'd really love to see some more pass rush moves from him. Just another one to be able to just, be more effective. I think the problem is he's being erased from plays. And, even, the threat of a pressure just not really coming there. Not to the same effect as something like a guy like Justin Houston has been doing for the first couple of weeks. I mean, heck, I'll even say Brandon Copeland, another guy actually I was really impressed with this game. I thought in some plays, he actually had a little bit more pressure than Odafe. And again, not all on him, but certainly I think he's my guy. If somebody needs an impact play to kind of boost his confidence, that's the guy right there. We really need some plays to come for him.
I definitely agree with that. I will say though, I'm just biting at the bit to talk about this Bills matchup. Though I was watching some of what the Dolphins were able to do to that Bills offensive line. I think we might see a good game from Owe coming up, but we did see some strides from Owe. I mean, obviously he had an excellent game against Arizona in the preseason. It looked like he was debuting some new pass rushing moves. Haven't seen a ton of that through these first 3 weeks. 100% agree with you on that play where Mac Jones had the quarterback sneak, or not quarterback sneak, but pocket collapse. He was able to run into the end zone untouched. That's a play Owe needs to make. And yes, did the tackle have good possession? Sure, but a guy who was drafted as high as him and has those physical tools, that's the leap we're waiting for from this guy. And, I'm sure he knows that. And I think he will be able to do it. He might be a little bit of a late bloomer like Tyus Bowser or Zadarius Smith. It seems that Ravens pass rushers these days, it takes them a few seasons to mold into the player that they're going to. But yeah, I would say, though, the silver lining to this, though, is that despite the fact that we're not yet seeing Owe at the prime that we want to see him in, the pass rush has been there through these first 3 weeks. Maybe not as much against the Dolphins, but certainly against the Jets and the Patriots. And we talked about it in the preview. We said this is going to be a tough test for the front seven. a tough test to really get to the quarterback with an offensive line that all 5 members were strong, which didn't mean that there weren't any weaknesses, but an extremely solid unit. And while the Patriots definitely had the upper hand early in the game, with the exception of a beautiful stunt by Hamilton and Queen for a sack, as the game wore on, the Ravens were able to chip away and really get in the backfield quite a bit and disrupt Mac Jones. So I do think we need to look at that as a positive takeaway, that we're still waiting for Bowser to come back, and yeah, we're still waiting for Oweh to make that splash play, but the scheme right now is you're seeing, I would say, more, maybe not a lot more, but more pass rush than we were expecting, and a more effective pass rush than we were expecting going into the season at this point. Yeah,
Oweh is definitely getting a lot of respect, I think, from opposing offenses. A lot of people were complaining, obviously, about the holds against him, and I think we'll see how they're able to respond with Houston potentially hurt with his injury, and if JPP is able to come on board and deliver a difference anytime soon. We'll see how he's able to perform. He's had a couple of Sam snaps where he was been not quite in the right position. Even his long wingspan couldn't compensate for the fact that he was a little out of position and the pass got behind him. The same problems we were talking about with like Bynes, even though he seemed to be playing better, and Queen, who seemed to be playing about him the same. Which isn't necessarily positive.
I think if I recall, I think it was like a pass. It was like the Parker or Bourne or something on like the left-hand side.
It's always Parker.
Yeah. Right. No, yeah. I remember seeing that play too, because I think 3 linebackers dropped and Oweh's a little bit too close to center, and you just saw the pass go right above his hand. So.
Yep, exactly. Yep, and outside linebacker is a really tough position in the league. It's notorious one of the longest growing pains, so to speak. So I still have hope for him, and intend to wear his jersey next go around. He's next.
Oh yeah, I'm not off the Oweh train. I'm just saying, if a guy needs a positive play.
I'm saying I'm back in the 99 here. I'm going to bring it out so that he can perform against the Bills, like Peter once. But hey, before we stop talking about the defense, we had an injury, unfortunately, to Pierce, and the test results aren't final yet, so we don't know the extent of it and what will have to happen. But I guess the good news is not only did Travis Jones get his first action and eat up a lot of snaps, but Madubuike is that dude. Another redemption story. Not that he necessarily needed it, but we said after week 2, what's going on with this defensive line? They're not getting the push. Madubuike responded. And what the beautiful part was that he finally got a sack after doing so many great plays in dirty work that maybe PFF captures, but again, a traditional box score is just like a tackle, or maybe not even a tackle. He just disrupted a play, and he's been doing a lot of dirty work this year, and he finally got one of those boutique stats that a sack, boom, love to see it. And he even got mentioned in the Athletic Football Show podcast, which I thought was really interesting. As
oh, nice,
yeah, well, they were really high on him. I think they were the ones who started. I think they were the ones who started the whole dark horse for what do you call it, defensive rookie of the year, or defensive player of the year, whatever thing, last year. But yeah, no, I mean Madubuike, he's doing the thing, so it's good. I love watching him. He's so excited. He gets so amped up whenever he makes a big play, and he wears 92, and that's cool too. It just brings back those vibes.
I mean, he's the most exciting Ravens defensive lineman to watch since the original 92, right? Since Nada, I think. Maybe I'm going too far there.
No.
I'm struggling to think of. I mean, Brandon Williams. Yeah, maybe not that guy.
I mean, Brandon Williams, excellent player. I mean, I defend Brandon Williams more than almost anyone on this fan base, but he was the opposite of an exciting player. He was just effective. He did the dirty work really well.
Willie Henry was good for 2016, and then after that, we don't know what happened to him.
What did happen to Willie Henry? That's a name that I even forget.
He fell off the face of the universe. I think he had really bad performance.
Yeah, he got hurt, and then the year after he got cut. Yeah.
Bounced around the Niners, Texans, Eagles, Giants. Currently plays for the Birmingham Stallions.
Oh, of course.
Of the USFL. The USFL. That's right. That was gonna be when. Is the USFL a thing? When does that? Who cares? Anyways, Justin Matabuke.
Did you get saved?
Ronnie Stanley is still not on the field, so no. But yeah, I mean, Matabuke, he had a slow start last year, and even overall in the second half when he was starting to play a little better, we still wanted to see more from him. But he had a monster game against the Patriots. He was commanding some double teams, several athletic plays. He was in the backfield a lot, running in pursuit of the running back. There's nothing you can say, in my opinion, without doing a deep dive of the film that he did bad in the game. You just watch any defensive snap of this game. I was just doing it while Alec was talking, just watching some random defensive snaps. Boom, Matabuke coming across the field, making a run. Boom, Matabuke in the backfield, forcing Mac Jones to run to his left. Here's Matabuke getting a double team on a pressure. Look, we're just waiting for consistency from this guy, but he has the tools to be what was formerly known as a Pro Bowl player. I don't know if it'll still be known as a Pro Bowl player since that game got killed this morning. But we're seeing good things from this guy, and that's going to play huge dividends for this defense. And hopefully that'll, he starts having more consistent play. That'll be something that gets this run defense to start shoring up as the year goes on.
Yeah, one of the last couple thoughts here. Calais Campbell managed to play 89% of snaps, even after getting dinged up early on in the game. I think we got to find a way to get that guy off the field. Not because he's a liability, just because he's playing so many snaps for his age. Yeah. I mean, he's going back to vintage Calais Campbell, and I don't know if his body wants to be vintage Calais Campbell.
Well, do we know why Brent Urban was inactive?
Probably because of
bringing on Jones.
Yeah, just like a numbers game.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to think about if there was somewhere we could have used an extra lineman over someone else.
I can give you a name. His name's Mike and rhymes with Schmavis.
True.
He played a single snap.
But you don't want to be going into the game with two halfbacks there. I'm sure they didn't want to do that. So even if you still technically were, but
right.
I know. Hey, Devin Duvernay is ready.
Yeah. Or another guy, Alec confuses him with Jack Doyle.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, with
some
the card
offensive
there.
players.
Yeah,
but no. I mean, I'm hoping with whenever Jason Pierre-Paul is able to join. I don't know if it's going to be during the Bills or maybe the week after. I'm hoping with his return, I would hope that would help lessen the snap count a little bit. Because if you notice, especially after Houston went out, it was Odafe and then Calais on either side of the line when they're playing a 4-man front. So he was playing a lot of those. I guess I don't even know. I don't even think he'd technically be a Sam at that point. I don't know how they do that, but yeah, he was playing a lot of snaps on the outside. So
right, yeah. No, I mean, and he has that potential versatility, which is wonderful. But and then of course, after week 4, we're about to be there. I bet you we're going to see our main man Bowser back. It sounds like he was darn close to being ready, and the IR decision was made right at the last minute. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was on the Travis Jones trajectory. Just they pivoted a little bit differently than they did for Travis Jones, where he could have maybe even been playing in this game, maybe even for the Bills game or whatever, but they just took it the safe route. Particularly with that, he had the unique qualification of being on the PUP and not having to play roster and get game spots with, whereas other players they had to get those games. So anyways, I'm excited for this defense. I think it has a lot of headroom, and yards, points aren't too big of a deal if you keep getting these turnovers and winning the high leverage plays.
Yeah, we needed to see a bounce back performance from this unit to feel comfortable after the breakdown against Miami. I think we saw it. I understand some of the fan base still wants to see more. I get it. We do too. But I think you hit it right. They showed progression. They showed how this can work, and luckily there's still plenty of the season more for them to fine tune it. But yeah, the core of this group is, I think pretty special, and I think we're going to see big things from this group. And before we close this out, we still got to talk our safeties, Marcus Williams and Chuck Clark, still doing an excellent job. And it seems like it's just going to be an every week thing. Marcus Williams and Chuck Clark just all over the field making plays. But a couple mistakes from them, sure. But another really solid effort from both those guys.
Want to wrap it up with our MVPs?
Sounds good. I think there's a really obvious answer here. So I'm going to let you guys go first and take it if you guys don't.
Yeah, you can take it. That's fine. I'm going to go with... Okay, go ahead. Go first.
All right, fine. Yeah, well, it's kind of it's co-MVP. I think you got to look at it. Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters didn't have them last year. They got big turnovers in this game. In the fourth quarter, got crazy, and that was the difference, like we were saying. So you got to give it to those guys.
I'm going to get cute with it. I'm going to say John Harbaugh, 150 wins, first win as a 60-year-old, and I think he's a good leader of men.
Interesting. Not where I was going to maybe go with it, but...
First win in Foxborough. There's like a lot of fun little storylines for him. So
yeah. I mean, I get. We should have had some more wins in Foxborough. If I'm going to be honest.
Well, first regular season win. Let's not shortchange those playoff wins.
That's fair.
Oh,
That's fair.
Yeah.
Can't forget about those two.
Yeah. No. You know what? This feels really weird to say. I'm not going to go for the obvious Lamar Jackson or Mark Andrews. I'm going to go Greg Roman.
Ooh.
I thought adjusting after McCary went down with Falele, I thought that was great. I really liked a lot of the new wrinkles to the offense this week. I thought that there were some really interesting things. Like I said, that shovel pass to Andrews. You had Ricard on a crosser. Nobody would ever expect that. There were a lot of plays like that I thought were just well designed, and the guys executed really well. I think he deserves a lot of credit for that.
He's gonna have to make sure that the lock's good on that vault starting to leak.
Well, it's funny, right? Like, I feel like the vault's going to be wide open for this fourth game this season that we've all had circled since the schedule came out.
Hopefully,
and he's already been letting things slide out. So, like, who knows? We might be coming out of. We might see more 14 personnel. Remember when they did 14 personnel?
Yeah, right.
Nah, we'll see. But I'm looking forward to this game. Obviously, we're talking about it. Bills at home, 1 o'clock. Really big matchup. Both teams only have one loss, and it was to the Dolphins in kind of disappointing fashion. And we'll see how it fares. We're about to do a show with CJ. He's been on before to talk the Bills, so we'll get to discuss it with him, learn more about his team. And, yeah, go Ravens. You can find us at OneWinningPod on Twitter. You can also email us, onewinningpod@gmail.com. And most importantly, go on YouTube, check out the new video content that we're putting up, and we'll have more Ravens history corners, more bets that you just should follow Jason on, apparently. At least how it's going right now. And yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.